Hello, everyone. It's a privilege for me to participate in the 11th edition of the International Finance Summit on the theme Strengthening Human Capital in Haiti in a Post-COVID Perspective. This annual meeting creates a space where structured reflections can take place with the overall goal of financing sustainable development in Haiti. I am Naya Jasne Desire, founder and attorney at law at Cabinet Jasne Desire Associé, and it is my pleasure today to moderate the panel about Caribbean investment and capital market post-COVID perspectives. Indeed, COVID is still very present in our daily lives, although the provision of the vaccine has changed the situation. The economic situation in Latin America and the Caribbean has deteriorated sharply with the spread of the pandemic in the region. The collapse of world commodities price, the slowdown of big economies such as USA, China, massive capital outflows in major economies, and increase of the risk premiums have contributed to aggravate the situation. According to IMF, the pandemic hit the economies of Latin America and the Caribbean harder than many other economies due to the high level of informal jobs in the region. The inflow of foreign direct investment to Latin America and the Caribbean contracted 37% last year. There was also a major negative impact in cross-border M&A in Latin America and the Caribbean, which contracted 67% last year, while greenfield projects saw a drop of 51%. Many economic analysts are projecting an economic recovery. However, for 2021, UNTAC sees global FDI remaining weak and investors staying very cautious. We will go further by inviting our panelists to share with us their analysis of the situation, as well as recommendation to foster new investment and growth. I will briefly present each panelist before launching the discussion. We will have with us tonight Mr. Leo Williams. He joined SEAF as Managing Director for the SEAF Caribbean SME Growth Fund. Prior to SEAF, he founded Williams and Associates, an investment advisory firm focused on attracting capital to Jamaica and the wider Caribbean region. Leo is a former director and international business development manager of Jamaica Money Market Brokers Ltd, and also a former director of the Jamaican Stock Exchange. He has also led several divisions within General Electric USA and Spain, and served as a consultant with Boston Consulting Group. He holds a bachelor in engineer from Princeton University and a master in engineer and a master in international studies from the University of Pennsylvania, as well as an MBA from the Wharton School of Business. And the second panelist that we will have with us tonight is Mr. Gerald Wight. He holds a master in finance from Florida International University, Florida, and a law degree from the University of Wolverhampton, United Kingdom. He began his professional career at Citibank Jamaica in 1986 as relationship manager. Between 1988 and 2010, he has held various positions in the field of credit within institutions based in Jamaica and the United States of America, including the National Australia Bank, the National Commercial Bank, Jamaica, and the CIBC. In 2011, he became a founding member of the Jamaican Investment Bank, BCW Capital, an institution that holds a seat at the Jamaica Stock Exchange. From 2015 to 2017, he held the position of Vice President, Head of Portfolio Management at Cover Federal Savings Banks in New York, USA. In this position, he has more specifically overseen the management of a commercial loans portfolio of over 600 million US dollars. He is currently the Senior Global Banking Vice President at CNB, a national bank in the United States, where he oversees the activities of the international payment and banking correspondence for the entire Caribbean region, Latin America, South America, and some countries of the Asia-Pacific region. Gerald Wight has been a member of the board of directors of ProFin since March 2016. He is also chairman of the board of directors of the Haitian company Caribbean Investor Capital (CIC). It is my honor, Mr. Wight and Mr. Williams, to be with you tonight. And I will start with Mr. Williams by asking him to give us a better understanding of his company, SEAF, and the work that you were doing for the SMEs in the Caribbean.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm interested and glad to be here speaking with you about the work in Haiti and the work that you're doing. And I think it's a very good experience and very good topic to be discussing at this time. Our fund, the SEAF Caribbean SME Growth Investment Fund, was actually started in October of 2019. And so we have just 2 years of experience under our belt now. What we're looking to do is to invest in companies across the region, anywhere that touches the Caribbean Sea. We have about 33 million US dollars, and we're looking not at any particular sector, but any company that is interested in growing dramatically between when we invest and when we divest. It's a 10-year fund, and so we intend to have all the divestments complete by the 10th year. And we also plan to have investors possibly participating with exits on the Jamaica Stock Exchange or other stock exchanges of the world, including the London AIM or other stock markets that we could identify. So our investment approach is to help to create growth and value within the region, finding those gems and those jewels, and then finding ways of encouraging them to grow further. Our first investment was in October of last year, and it was in Guyana, South America. It's in the quick service restaurants business, the number one performer in that market with about 28 locations. And so we took a controlling position. We worked collaboratively with the founder and the owner, and we're growing the company now, adding new capabilities and new strengths. And we're looking to see if we can bring that company now to the rest of the Caribbean in the few years that we have left. So it's a very exciting time. We're also looking for companies that might be interested in growing in Haiti. And so our mandate doesn't exclude that possibility. So with Mr. Wight and with other people that we could speak with, we're going to be looking at ways in which we can collaborate with companies that are seeking to grow. Good entrepreneurial teams, good business models, and good, strong performance historically in the market.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I really like the fact that you were also interested into Haiti. So I would ask Mr. Wight, who has already an experience with Haiti, how does Haiti compare to the other countries in the Caribbean in terms of investment potential post-COVID, so that probably you could guide Mr. Williams in investment in Haiti?
Well, thank you so much for having me on this panel. And I really want to congratulate the team at Group Croissants and ProFin and all the people involved with the Central Bank of Haiti to have this prestigious conference for another year. It's been many years I've had the opportunity to participate along with my fellow panelists, Mr. Williams, last year. And it's really exciting to see that it's growing each year. The topics are becoming more and more relevant, and the impact that it's having, not only in Haiti, but around the Caribbean. So I want to say that I see Haiti as probably the best investment opportunity in the Caribbean. And the reason for that is that the country hasn't gone through the recent development that some of the other countries have, such as Jamaica and maybe Barbados, Trinidad. And so you see there are probably two countries that are poised for significant growth. You have Haiti, and then you also have Guyana, which was referred to by Mr. Williams as well. Haiti, though, is a special opportunity because of the size of the country, because of the size of the population, the proximity, the history. And so there are a number of industries that are yet to be developed. But interestingly, there are other industries that have done really well in Haiti. So when we started Caribbean Investor Capital, or CIC, there were 5 founders, myself, Mr. Robert Perret Jr., Mr. Guy Balan, Junior Guran, and Mr. Ralph Pereira. We raised capital back in 2017 and invested in a number of entities. So one was a gas station network, the Go Network, which has really done well as a port facility for fuel, food production business, Carissa, which does sausage products. And then we're also an investor in ProFin. And I must tell you that even in COVID, those investments have done better than investments outside of Haiti. So for example, in Jamaica, we invested in our rent-a-car business, and with tourism going down, that business has been under a lot of pressure. But as Mr. Williams has pointed out, which we also do, we look for strong entrepreneurs, good business people. We provide smart capital, we provide them the support, and we look for ways to grow these businesses across not only Haiti, but the rest of the region. So it's been very exciting. And there are a lot of opportunities. You know, when you look at COVID, the impact on shipping, what we've seen, and even in Jamaica, is that manufacturing companies, local manufacturing companies have boomed, and because of the shipping disruptions, you know, from around the world. So these are exciting opportunities. COVID has been a challenge. We mourn the losses, and we celebrate the frontline workers that are working all across the Caribbean to deal with COVID. But there are a lot of business opportunities, and we're very, very optimistic at CIC.
Thank you for being that optimistic. I would like to ask you first, and then Mr. William, you would also answer the same question. Given your experience in the region, what are the biggest surprise that you found out during like the COVID era, and the toughest lesson that you have learned?
Well, certainly, I think the ability to travel has been severely limited. And so one of the things that investors, when you're going across the region, you know, you're constantly visiting the countries to see what's happening, meeting with industry players, looking at your portfolio companies, government officials, financial institutions. You know, you're constantly flying to these countries. And the Caribbean has been, you know, the type of region where people like to do business face to face. So the inability to travel has been a challenge in developing the pipeline, and in some ways in monitoring the investments. So when you could have been there physically to quote unquote kick the tires, you know, every 2 weeks, we're not able to do that anymore. So that has been probably the biggest challenge. What is interesting though is that using Zoom and Google Meet and Microsoft Teams and other services like that, we've been able to replace it. And in some ways, I think I'm working harder now than before COVID when I was on a plane for a lot of the time. So it's been an interesting impact from COVID.
Thank you, Mr. William.
Sure. One of the more surprising learnings with COVID is that while many of the businesses have had difficulty getting customers to come in and participate face-to-face, their revenues have fallen and their ability to service loans has been under pressure. The surprise is that many of the banks are not necessarily increasing their moratoriums or their lending or their payment terms. And so many of the companies that were at the top of their borrowing limit are even under just as much stress now or more as a result of COVID. You might have thought that there might have been, because it's so worldwide and so global, that the banks might have had some kind of a general adjustment across the board, but they're all very much protecting their bottom lines and trying to minimize their losses. And so this is the perfect time for private equity capital that can come in and help to rescue some of these companies from expensive interest payments or foreclosures or different kinds of financial stress. It's really important that we look for those companies that have the proper management, and the only thing wrong is a temporary depression in the ability to entertain customers. If that's the case, we're very interested in speaking with that management team to see if we can help to make an investment. As Jerry pointed out, doing business with COVID means we're doing a lot of things remotely. And so our investment that we did in Guyana, we actually did entirely remotely with teams of people from Trinidad and from Jamaica and from St. Lucia and from Washington, D.C., all looking and gathering information, doing due diligence and setting up the reviews and making sure that we were continuing to do what we would normally do, but in the new environment. And so one of the ways in which we're adjusting is by helping to accelerate the push to touchless interactions. And so if there is a business that typically dealt with face-to-face, even a food business where people had to pick up the food, now you'll find that the restaurants, you can order ahead and they'll bring the food to you at the curbside. You don't have to leave your car. And so, it's a much more responsive environment. The digital environment is also very strong. You'll find companies that have been very slow and old and lethargic are suddenly now using the internet and trying to take orders or do fulfillment, work with new ways of doing their business model. And so those types of responsive companies are also very attractive to look at. And I think you'll find that there are many companies in Haiti that are thinking along those lines. So we'd like to find and meet some of them.
Okay. Would you also consider that taking into account that experience, that your investment strategy, would you change it in order to give probably more space to digital technology investment?
Well, we certainly are elevating the importance of digital technology, but it's really more of companies that can adapt and use digital technology in their business model. Those are the companies that we're looking to identify. And so to the extent that they can do that, that'd be great. We'd love to be able to find the way in which that can be used in their activities. But we really don't, we're not looking at shifting to only digital companies. We're looking for companies to adopt and adapt to digital ways in which they can do what they do. And that way they'll be even stronger. So if they can find customers digitally, if they can take the spending more digitally, if they can fulfill and deliver products and interact with customers in a more digital way, that's excellent, because when COVID pandemic is past, they will be on a stronger footing to be able to grow, not just in their country, but in a neighboring country or in different markets as well. And that's where we'd like to take them.
Thank you. Mr. White, regarding especially like the technology infrastructure, let's say we also have less access in Haiti, for instance, to technology. So not a lot of people have access. And I figured out also probably like in some other countries in the Caribbean, it is the same issue. Not a lot, not a large part of the population have access to that technology. Do you think like the government, what do you think needs to be done in order for that technology to be like a real value added?
No, that's an interesting question, and I've actually found that in Haiti the technology is actually pretty advanced, in comparison to the rest of the Caribbean. And when I say that, within the private enterprises, so companies have adapted and have embraced the use of technology in many ways more advanced than I've seen in other countries. Another example, maybe not technology related, but in Haiti, for example, there's a challenge sometimes with the power grid, the electricity system. Well, most companies have become very independent, producing their own electricity, and even doing it cheaper than you may purchase it from the grid in other countries like Jamaica. So people in Haiti have found have been very, very on the cutting edge with technology. The other thing that we've seen in Haiti and the rest of the Caribbean is that everybody has a mobile phone, and they're using that mobile phone as a cutting edge technology to do tremendous things. So certainly the use of technology is there, but as Mr. Williams has said, the challenge is to use it to improve your business, not necessarily transform your entire business into the digital world. It may happen over time, but I do believe the Caribbean is still evolving in that way. And certainly digital businesses as investments, they tend to be a little bit more risky as opposed to quote unquote block and steal, type of investments. But again, there are opportunities there and they have to be looked at, but risk has to be managed very, very carefully.
Yeah. And on that, I would also ask you, what is your outlook on the foreign direct investment in the Caribbean post-COVID, and especially in Haiti, knowing that not only we are in the post-COVID era, but also we are in a political situation that is not right at the moment?
Well, I'll let Mr. Williams go and then I will answer afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.
The question is, what is the opportunity post-COVID?
What is the outlook on foreign direct investment in the Caribbean, and especially also in Haiti? But we know that in Haiti, we don't only have the challenge of post-COVID, but we also have like the challenge linked to like our investment climate and the political instability.
Right. The foreign direct investment opportunity is good. It's strong. I think there are partners in Haiti and partners even overseas, like in Canada, who are very anxious to see Haiti transition to a more stable political environment and to continue its growth and development. Entrepreneurs are very resilient and very focused on bringing the opportunities. As Jerry said, the numbers of people in Haiti are huge, and that creates a market opportunity that you're not going to find in many other places. What is going to be important is for Haiti to do the work to present that the numbers of COVID cases are under control. And so either accessing vaccines and putting out information about tourism workers that are vaccinated, and so the tourism sector is protected for those who want to come in and do work in tourism, or preparations for exports. Those types of signals that Haiti can send will help to draw the investments in, the foreign direct investments that are so vital going forward. But the numbers are there, and the commitment of Haiti's partners internationally is there. And so it's a question of having the private sector work closely with the public sector to be able to get that consistent message out, both within Haiti and outside of Haiti as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wight?
Yes. Well, the interesting thing is that the supply of capital is there. The investment funds are available. So whether they're coming out of the traditional money centers, London, New York, Europe, or the Caribbean, there's a tremendous amount of capital. It's interesting that with the contraction in the economies, there's still a lot of capital that needs to be invested. And so the funds are there. What I would say is that Haiti is a very attractive place to invest. You did mention that, and Mr. Williams touched on it, that there are some macro issues that the government can help with, the stability issues, there's some political issues. But I think for long-term investors that want to come in and invest, the capital is there, and with the right partners, the capital will come to Haiti. So one thing we do at ProFin is each year we present at the Jamaica Stock Exchange Conference, which is a regional capital markets conference. We've done that for 4 years now. And it's been a huge opportunity for us to tell people about what we're doing in Haiti and to introduce them to these opportunities, to encourage the foreign direct investment. And so we have had a number of people that have flown across. We've hosted them in Haiti. We've given them tours from Port-au-Prince up to Cap Haitian, providing them with constant information. And people want to invest. However, once they feel that they can invest in a stable environment, then the flows will come. But I'm very confident that foreign direct investments will flow into Haiti and probably outpace some of the other islands that have traditionally been the recipients of foreign direct investment.
Thank you. We haven't talked yet about the capital market. I would like to know how COVID really impacted the capital market in the Caribbean.
Well, there's one big way. That's for Haiti to join the capital markets of Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad with its own stock exchange. I think the Stock Exchange of Jamaica is very anxious to invite the Haitian BRH and the other regulators to help to foster that. I think that would be a great platform. There is a huge amount of interest and loyalty in the Haitian diaspora, and that kind of a structure could help to encourage the Haitian diaspora to invest in a very safe and responsible way. But they need to see some structure and something that has the ability to give the confidence that they've seen elsewhere. And so the possibilities of doing some type of a partnership are great, and it can help capital markets dramatically. But in addition to that, there is, as Jerry pointed out, we have $33 million US that's looking for a home. And so, you can invite us in and you can show us some of the opportunities that are there, and we'd be glad to take a look. Jerry's funds, and there are other funds as well that we've come across in Europe that are interested in Haiti. We've had people contact us from Canada that are interested in Haiti. and would like to go in jointly with us into Haiti. And so if the environment is right and the entrepreneurs are receptive and the private and public sector can show the right types of collaboration, there is a strong opportunity for some of these investments and these capital market developments to really take root.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. And, you know, I also have been in dialogue with the guys at ProFin to try and get the start a stock exchange or partnership with the Jamaica Stock Exchange into for Haiti. And Kessner Farrell has been to Jamaica many times, the head of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Mr. Street Forest, with Mr. Williams. You know, missions have come across to Haiti as well with the central bank. And it's something that could be done relatively easily, you know, because the framework is there in Jamaica. And what they've done is they've created like sub-markets. So you have the Jamaica Stock Exchange, where they have like a junior market, and they have a public-private market, and then they have a private debt market they just started. So it would be you could essentially even create a Haitian market or index. So there's ways to do it. One of the challenges I think though is that there needs to be more capital markets professionals that are, for me, accountants, lawyers, persons that can help and that have a knowledge of the regional market to help to work with the Haitian companies to bring them onto the stock exchange. So simple things, for example, in Haiti, the Napoleonic Code is used and the legal system may be different. And so versus a common law system. So having professionals that know both systems is going to be important. Well, the good thing I can tell you on the accounting side, you know, we've worked with some of the top accounting firms in Haiti, so the accounting side is fine. But on the legal side, I think there's going to be some need for training and development and a build-up of professionals. So I know that in Group ProFin, we started an entity, ProCroissants, that is looking to provide those services for companies that want to come in and also companies that want to go out. So it started, but the opportunity is immense.
Thank you. I can see that you both very optimistic in terms of the perspective post-COVID, in terms of foreign direct investment, in terms of capital market. But I have another question. What do you think will help this economic recovery in terms of like policies that the government or like any type of program that the government should put in place to help strengthen like this economic recovery within the Caribbean, or if you want, Mr. Wight, specifically in Haiti, since you already know the context?
Yeah, well, I think that the government has been doing a good job. The central bank, the regulators, I know a lot of work is going on in terms of the financial sector. They came up with new rules and regulations 4 or 5 years ago. New regulations have come out this year. I know they're working with a number of consultants, best in class from around the world. So I think the work is being done. I think the main challenge now is more on the political side. That once there's a feeling of political stability, then people will have comfort to take the next step. But I do think that within the Central Bank of Haiti in particular, you know, there's really top-notch talent within the other government agencies that deal with foreign direct investments and even the Ministry of Tourism and other agencies. They really are the structure are there, the people are there, and again, just once people feel comfortable with a political situation, then you know we think you're going to see more flows coming in. Now, this is not only something that Haiti has experienced. In Jamaica, we've had our own political instability in the 70s, 1970s was very unstable. So we had the same challenge. And then once there was a transition in the 80s, then the economy started to see a turnaround. And then we've had other countries that have experienced the same thing. In Guyana, they had an election that took 6 months to decide. There was competition and in terms of the results, legal battles. So those are the kind of things that held up, the capital and the foreign direct investments from going in. But once they're resolved, then the capital starts to flow.
Yeah, that's a good point. The area that I think could benefit from some effort is the area of governance within the corporate structures of Haiti. I think there are very strong, well-run companies. I know of one in the insurance sector. I'm not going to name any names. I know of some others in the banking sector. The BRH itself has some very strong governance traditions. But if the private sector could emphasize that reliance on governance in specific private companies, I think it will help to create a small group, a niche of companies that can then show the way forward in a very strong leadership way that might also help to give some models on the political side as well. But you have some existing Haitian strong, well-run companies, and that impulse to transparency, to openness, to working through the structures and the governance is really important as a signal for other investors outside of Haiti as well. And so that's where the legal fraternity in Haiti can really add value and make a difference in the short term, even with the existing pressures that are there. It's highlighting those companies that are doing really well in terms of focus on the management teams, the structures, the governance, and the ability to be transparent and reach new markets despite what is going on elsewhere.
Mr. William, I would like you to give us like a broader understanding on what the fund is doing and your investment strategy.
Excellent. Thank you. I'd be glad to help. Let me show you a few slides that we prepared in that answer. So the name of our fund is the SEAF Caribbean SME Growth Investments Fund, and we're really pushing in the region to make sure our presence is well felt. We've done 30 other funds around the globe, but this is the first one in the Caribbean, and it's actually focused on the CARICOM footprint. And so you'll see that we have good experience in funds in general, but we also have local expertise from the Caribbean that's participating. Our fund in particular, this fund was launched in October of 2019. We have about $32 million. We're targeting getting up to close to 100, targeting the CARICOM footprint and the countries like Haiti and the Dominican Republic to the extent we can find opportunities. And we're looking for about 8 or 10 transactions over 10 years, typically about $3 or $5 million US, with expected returns north of, say, 15% IRR and up. And in terms of industry, our market is for any company in the small, medium enterprise sector that is not specific to any particular sector. So we're looking for companies that have revenues or sales, north of $3-5 million US up to 50, strong partners, people, very good competitive advantage. And we're also looking to do buyout. And so we will take a minority position, or we can take a majority position as well. And it's very important to us that we have impact on our market. So we're looking to have financial impact, community impact, and environmental impact as much as possible. So any of those ideas trigger anything in your minds, please feel free to give us a call and email at lwilliams@seaf.com, and we'd be glad to follow up. So I wanted to just share that quickly and say thank you very much. appreciate the opportunity. It's a great project, a great program at Group Croissant. The BRH has been a stalwart partner, and now with ProFin, it's even got another leg of the stool. So we're very happy to participate, and we're very proud to see that our neighbor next door in Haiti is actually doing these great things. And if we can help, we'd be glad to help. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wight, do you have a last word?
Yes, well, I want to congratulate again my friend Kesna Farrell, Mr. Robert Perret Jr., and the team at ProFin, Group ProFin. It really is an honor to be a member of this panel and to participate in this conference. Certainly the central bank and the governor and his team have been doing an outstanding job. And I've been to many of the conferences in Haiti. You know, it's certainly looking forward to being there in person again, but it's been really an outstanding summit each year. And I know that this year again is going to be outstanding. And we're looking forward to being there in person in the near future. I certainly feel very positive, very confident about what Group ProFin is doing, the opportunities in Haiti, and certainly the opportunities around the region. So thank you for the opportunity. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of this panel.
Thank you so much for having you and your perspective on the subject. I hope that your optimism will be very contagious and that a lot of other investors will be considering the Caribbean and especially Haiti for future endeavors. Thank you so much, Mr.